Welcome to the NLP Talks podcast, bringing you inspirational stories along with a good dose of potentially life-changing NLP strategies. I'm Laura Evans, multi-award-winning NLP trainer, and I'm on a mission to help you unleash your potential in business and life. I'm so glad you're here. Pull up a chair, listen in, and let's get started on revealing more about this transformational NLP toolkit. Well, hello and welcome to Series 8 of the NLP Talks podcast. I am, of course, Laura Evans, your host, and thank you so much for being here. I thought we'd start Series 8 with me sharing a NLP Taster Training. So last month I ran a 1-hour taster training for people who were interested in NLP, perhaps didn't know much about it, and more importantly, wanted to see for themselves how NLP works and what it might be able to do for them. Now, this was recorded as a video. If you want to watch the free video version of this training, then do head over to our website, unleashyourpotential.org.uk, and you will be able to watch the full video and be able to get the full experience. However, what we thought was, why don't we just share the audio track with our podcast community, because then you can listen on the way to work or at the gym or wherever it is that you listen to the podcast. So without further ado, let's cut across to the training. Enjoy. Let me know what you think of it. Drop us an email, info@unleashyourpotential.org.uk. And I'm going to be back very, very soon to tell you what is in Series 8. NLP for me is about helping people to change how they think, feel and act. That is the simplest way that I can describe what NLP is all about. It's about helping people to think differently about themselves. That might include limiting beliefs that are holding them back, or memories from the past that might be holding them back, but freeing them up from that unhelpful thinking, helping them change how they feel. So that might be about helping them be in a more empowered state, feel more resourceful. These might be a little bit alien words if you haven't been in this kind of environment before. But we know that negative emotions are not helpful. I don't know about you, but I tend not to make good decisions when I'm angry. They tend to be the duff decisions, or when I'm absolutely terrified, they tend not to be the good decisions. And we know from neuroscience that when our amygdala, that reptilian part of our brain, the very primitive part of our brain, is in control of our system, then raw emotion can drive us, and we lose what they call our executive center or our prefrontal cortex, our ability to think more logically. And so emotions sometimes can trip us up, self-sabotage, those types of things. But also helping people feel differently when they're doing something they want to do. Maybe that's presenting at work. Maybe that's doing interviews. I know I used to get really scared in interviews. And then I realised the reason I got scared when I went to interviews is because I was playing a memory in my mind of an interview that went badly wrong over 10 years before. And I was so scared it would happen again. My imagination was making me rerun that old movie, and that wasn't very helpful. I work quite a lot with people with anxiety, and I always say that people that suffer with a lot of anxiety have the most amazing imaginations. They're just not using their imagination to help them imagine things turn out well. And I know, because that used to be me. If you know anything about my story, NLP has massively helped me with my mental health. I used to have depression, anxiety, it's massive. If you want to know about my story, I'll tell you about that another day, or we can send you my podcast episode. You can go listen to that. So think, feel and act. So the act part of how I talk about NLP is about behavior. It's about what we do or don't do in a given context. So in sales, let's use that as a work example. In sales, how you behave, how you come across when you're having those conversations will have an impact on how other people perceive you. how you behave around difficult people, all of those things. So to me, this little cocktail of helping people change how they think, feel and act is a way that I think about NLP, but it's not an official definition. And so for me, part of the NLP thing is you've got to experience it to work out what it means to you. Like, how will it help you personally, professionally, because it helps so many people. Now, if you want an official definition, we should look at some official definitions, because otherwise you'll just get Laura's take on everything. So an instruction manual for the mind is what Tad James used to call it. So Tad James sadly passed away in the pandemic, but he was the head of the ABNLP, our main accreditation body. So we're accredited globally, and the ABNLP is one of the biggest ones. And I quite like that, because NLP does not come from a standpoint of saying that anybody is broken. It doesn't come from a standpoint of saying that there's anything that needs to be fundamentally fixed about anybody. That might be for other disciplines to look at. But we look at people and we kind of say, do you know what? You're all right. You're pretty good. But there might just be some things that trip you up. Self-sabotage strategies, limiting beliefs, better communication influencing skills. All of these things fall into this camp. Now, if you break down neuro-linguistic programming, which is what NLP stands for, then there are three main parts to the official ABNLP definition. So neuro talks about the mind and the nervous system. We'll come back to that. But mindset is a key part to what we do here in NLP. You've then got linguistics. Now, this is the bit that gets missed from most people's understanding of NLP, because people come to NLP because they go, we can change people's limiting beliefs in 20 minutes, and we can get rid of phobias in 15 minutes. And that's not to belittle any of that, because it's helped me personally and helped hundreds and hundreds of our students, and in turn their own clients. But actually the language stuff is as important as the techniques. And this is what most NLP schools miss out, because they just go technique, technique, technique. And actually your language skills are so important if you want to use these techniques to help others. And if you don't want to use the techniques to help others, then that's cool too, because your own language skills are key. And that's why I'm going to share some language hacks with you very shortly to help you. And then the third part of the definition is programming. So this is the patterns or programs that we run every day. Now, does anybody want to hazard a guess in the chat how many patterns or programs you think we run every single day? Just have a wild guess in the chat. Put a number in, right? How many processes do you think we run in our mind every single day? Conscious and unconscious. Right? How many? Have a stab. Go on, be brave and put a number in the chat box. Yeah, 200, hundreds, 10,000, thousands. Yeah, do you know what? The neuroscientists tell us that we run between 10 and 20,000 patterns or programs every day. Like seriously, 10 to 20,000, right? And here's the key thing. Most of those patterns are the same patterns that you run the day before, the week before, and the month before, because human beings are habitual creatures. We live our lives on autopilot. Like, we have to do that, because otherwise, if you consciously had to make a decision about every single thing every single day, then you wouldn't get out the house. Like me, you probably brush your teeth on autopilot. You don't stand there consciously, unless you've got a small person in your house, but you don't stand there consciously and go around, now pick up your toothbrush, now pick up your toothpaste, put the toothpaste on the, right? We just do it. Well, we're thinking about probably everything else we've got to do before we leave for the day. So human beings are habitual, we run them. So this is why some people get into repetitive self-sabotage strategies. People run the same programs, the same limitations on themselves all the time. And I just love the fact NLP can help us change some of those. So that, if you've got a limiting belief that I'm not good enough, that's going to show up in every single area of your life. It will turn up in your personal life, in your professional life, when you deal with new people, friends, all of those places. You know, it's like a life compass. But if you unconsciously have picked up a bunch of limitations, and let's be honest, we don't do this consciously, right? It's not like we went in as a child into the supermarket and went, oh, I know, I'll have the 10 limiting beliefs that are available over here on this shelf and another 5 of those for good measure. Like, we don't do that. But equally, no one tells us how to change them either. You know, like, what can we do about them? And it holds people back in every single area of their life, their career, their businesses, their health, their fitness, their relationships, their finances. I mean, literally, I could go on. They show up everywhere. So, yeah. Now, the difference with NLP versus some other modalities out there is our understanding of the mind. And you've got 2 parts to your mind, essentially. You have your conscious, logical mind. This is where you do your logical thinking, your cause and effect, your A leads to B leads to C. We all like to think we're nice, rational human beings as adults. Not necessarily always, but that's what we like to think. And then underneath the waterline, you have your unconscious mind. So this is the bit that stores your memories, your beliefs, these 10 to 20,000 patterns every day. But ultimately, it controls your behavior. And this is why most modalities in personal development struggle to help people efficiently. It's because they assume we're all logical people. Like, we're all cause and effect, right? You go for a job and you go, I know I can do the job. I know I've got the skills. I know I've rehearsed the questions. And logically, you're like, yeah, I'm on it. I'm on point. This is mine. It's in the bag. But then in that moment, when you step into that interview room, the emotions come up. And that stops us. And so our beliefs and our memories start to play. So there was some research done by a guy called Professor Gerald Hodgkinson back in 2008, and it was published in Science Daily. And he said that if you really want to help people change their behavior, you need to pay attention to both conscious and, he called it non-conscious, we call it unconscious, but conscious and unconscious programming and processes. If you really want to help yourself or anybody else to change how they think, feel, or act, then ultimately you've got to pay attention to both parts. And that's why over the last decade, I've spent so much time doing courses for managers and senior managers in organizations, as well as small business owners and other professionals, because everybody kind of gets to the point of going, my toolkit I've currently got's good, but I feel like there's something missing. Like, if I had a pound for somebody, every time someone said to me, feels like there's something missing, I'd retired and I've been on the beach in the Bahamas. No, I'd still be in Cornwall. But it's it's absolutely fascinating. So that's my little whistle stop tour of a little bit of theory. Now I want to get on and give you some tools, right? Because I could literally spend 4 hours sat here doing theory, right? And if you want to know more about that, I can point in the direction of some of our podcast episodes if that's of interest, and Lynn can as well. So yeah. So I said language was really important, and I said that language is the bit that often gets overlooked with NLP. So that's the bit I'm going to start with. Now, what I want to do in this little short section is I want to give you some language hacks that you can take away and use tomorrow in your life, whether that's at work. If you're going to work tomorrow, you can use them there. If you've got kids at home, use them with the kids, right? If you have partners or other people close to you in your life, use them to help there as well, right? And I'm going to share with you these little language hacks, right, are why some of our students came back and did the whole prac course, because they're like, I want to know the rest. So let me give you these little bits. Now, rule number 1, okay, with language, is you've got to start to become more conscious of the language that you're using and the impact that it's having. Okay, now the first word that I'm going to help you to become more aware of is the word not. Right, a very small 3-letter word, the word not. Right, let me rattle off a couple of phrases and the penny's gonna drop, I'm pretty sure, right? So if you've got a small child and you say to that small child, don't run across the road, what does the child do? Runs across the road, right? You say to a friend or a work colleague, don't tell anyone, but, right? I got a new job, or, you know, or I got a new partner or whatever, right? And then you rock up the following day and every blimmin' person knows, and you're like, I told you not to tell anyone, right? You say to your partner at home, if you've got one, don't forget to put the bins out. Guess what's not happening? Now, let me explain the power of the word not. If you can just, right, tomorrow, pay attention to you or other people that you're with and where they're using the word not and the impact that it's having, because I bet you it's not having the desired outcome, right? I bet you it's not. Now, it's really easy to fix this, okay? And just, if you've got a pen and paper, just write this down. Rather than telling people what not to do, tell them what you want them to do. Right? So rather than telling people what not to do, tell them what you want them to do. So rather than saying to the small child, don't run across the road, think to yourself, what do I want this child to do? I want this child to stay here with me. So if you want them to stay with you and hold your hand, then say to the child, stay here and hold my hand, right? To the work colleague, rather than saying, don't tell anyone, right? Say to them, keep this to yourself, right? Now, I'm not saying this is going to be foolproof, right? Human beings are never foolproof, right? But if you lose your language skills to help you with your communication, it's going to get loads better, right? To the partner at home, rather than saying, don't forget to put the bins out, say, remember to put the bins out, right? So I challenge you to take this one little language hack away tomorrow. And when you're interacting with other people, start to pay attention to where you and they are using the word not. And instead of telling people what not to do, tell them what you'd like them to do, right? It will literally transform your communication with other people if you start to do that. And this is why we talk so much in NLP about language, right? Because it's little things like this that as soon as I explain it, you're probably sat there going, oh my God, yeah, this is so obvious. Like, how did I not realize this before? And actually, it makes such a difference. Yeah. So start telling people what you do want them to do. Now, have you heard of the power of yet? Right? This is another language hack. I'll put the slide back up in a minute. Another language hack that will help you. If other people, or even if you want to self-coach yourself, if you find them putting a definitive negative on something, right? Stick the word yet on the end and watch how it transformed. Now, my coaching clients, so I have some coaching clients because I believe I should keep my hand in as much as I train people to be therapists and coaches and etc. And they even do this themselves now, right, when I speak to them. Because they'll go, yeah, but Laura, I can't approach that customer yet. Or Laura, I can't put myself out there and sell a new course yet. Laura, I can't run a marathon yet. Notice how by just placing the word yet on the end of a definitive, it turns it back into a possibility that maybe they could learn. Maybe they could find a way. Maybe there is a different way of looking at things. You know, I can't run a marathon yet, but I could learn. I could find a mentor. I could go and, research it. I could go and see what's on YouTube. I can't go for the job yet. Okay, so who could help me, and so on and so on. Okay, so the power of yet. And you'll often see, this is a screenshot I took off social media because I was like, oh, you see, I don't know about you, but I get these kind of things come up a lot on my social media feed. So yeah. So put the word yet on the end of something and watch how it transforms. Okay, so that's your second language hack. So your first language hack was be mindful of the use of the word not, and your second language hack is being aware of the power of yet. Okay, I'm going to cheat slightly because the third language hack, which I promised you, is actually 3 words, and I'm going to try and rattle through these to give you them. Then you'll have 5 language hacks, so which is even more than I promised I would give you. So yeah. Now these next 3 words I call watch words. Okay, they are not words that I'm saying that you shouldn't use. There are going to be times when you absolutely will need to use them. But they're words where I would encourage you to again be mindful of the impact. So the 3 watch words are why, but, and try. Okay, so I'm going to take each of these in turn and I'm going to give you some examples and, more importantly, what can you do instead? So then you've got the practical stuff to take away. So, why did you do that? Why didn't you go to the gym this morning? Why didn't you walk the dog? Why do you smoke? Why don't you take better care of yourself? I could go on and on and on. Now, the word why is a word to always use with caution, because the word why elicits 3 things: reasons, excuses, and raw emotion. When you use the word why, you are unconsciously telling the recipient's unconscious mind that you want the reasons, the excuses, and the raw emotion. Now, back in my HR days, I did HR for 14 years before I started running my own business. We used to have a process called the 5 whys. Does anybody remember the 5 whys process for problem solving? No? Good, because I would recommend you avoid it. Because essentially what you used to do to get the root of a problem is you'd ask why 5 times. And in project management, back in the manufacturing days I was in, they used to ask why 5 times to get to the root of the problem. Ideally, layering, taking away the layers, right? The problem is, if you ever used that technique, all you got was emotion of people. People were defensive. They justified why they did things the way that they did. It was never going to bring about change. So rather than use the word why, frame a question that starts with what, when, who, or how. Okay, so I'd write that down if you've got a pen and a piece of paper. Frame your questions with what, who, when, and how. Because if you can ask a question that doesn't include the word why, you're going to reduce the risk. It won't eliminate it, it can't, but it will reduce the risk of what's coming back at you being reasons, excuses, and raw emotion. So let's use a different example. Let's say there's a child, right? You're in the lounge, child's in the kitchen, you hear a plate crash on the floor and you march out to the kitchen and you go, well, why did you do that? Right? Now, depending on how old or young the child is, you might have a stroppy teenager on your hands or a small child that bursts into tears going, oh, I'm so sorry, help, you know. And then you've got to get through all the raw emotion before you can get to anything that's useful. So a work example, someone at work, you ask them to send an email and they've not done it. Why didn't you send the email? Well, because, cue the list of reasons and excuses, right? But in that moment, when you realise that someone's not done something that you wanted them to do, a why question's not really going to be that helpful. You'd be much better off saying to the colleague, oh, can I just check when are you going to send that email? Oh, I'm really sorry, I didn't get to it yesterday. It's next on the list. Perfect. Now, I'm not saying, back in my old management days, that, you know, you shouldn't address poor performance at work if someone's not performing. But there's a time and place for that. And in the moment when you want something done that's not been done, frame the question differently and you'll get to something useful much faster. So rather than why, think about framing questions with who, what, when, or where. And then you'll find that that will really help. Now, the other one, I'm fast running out of time, so I'm only going to do one more, but it's a goodie, okay? And that's the word but. Now, if your role requires you to give feedback to anyone, whether that be at work, whether that be coaching clients, whether that be children, whoever's in your life, if you need to give feedback to people, I want you to know that the word but in linguistic terms is what we call a negation. Now, it's 7:30 at night. We don't want to be doing complex words like that. So basically what it means is that it deletes everything that comes before it, right? So let me give you an example. Let's put this in a work context. Let's say I'm assessing someone's presentation and I say to them, that was a great presentation, but your timekeeping could be improved. Which half of that statement are you now focused on? The first half or the second half? Show me on the screen. First half or second half? Exactly, the second half. Because the but deletes everything that comes before it. So they won't even have heard that you said that was a good presentation. They will just be focused on the latter part, which is you didn't think it was good enough. In my example, because it was too long. Right? I remember years ago now, we had a content director for a very well-known radio station here in the UK. And he said, you know, the hardest people to give feedback to are drive time presenters, right? So if you think about tea time radio when you're driving home, right? They have to recruit the presenters with big personalities because that's what makes us listen every evening, right? But the problem is to give those types of people feedback is really hard. And he said this one hack completely transformed how his feedback landed. And instead of using the word but, use the word and. That is the simple hack. So to reframe my feedback, that was a great presentation and your timekeeping could be a little tighter, right? And again, in linguistic terms, is known as a conjunction. Again, a very big word for 7:30 on a Tuesday evening. But in English, in easy to understand words, what a conjunction means is it brings things together. So whereas the word but deletes the first half, the word and brings it together. So if you need to give other people feedback, like I say, it doesn't matter in whatever area of your life, use the word and rather than but, bring it together, right? Now, it's not always as simple as just substituting one word for the other, because obviously it depends how you've constructed the sentence. And essentially what you need to do sometimes is you need to think about maybe restructuring the whole piece of feedback or not even giving it at all if it's not essential. The word but, though, is strategically used in coaching and therapy because we know the power of it. So if I'm coaching someone and they say to me, oh, but Laura, I just can't go for the job. I use it strategically to say, but what if you could learn how? Right? So when other people are coming to you and they're saying, I can't, I won't, it's too difficult, all of those kinds of things, then sometimes I will use it strategically. Now, there's a whole load of reasons why and how, and if you want to come back and do the proper training with us, then I can explain exactly how that works at an unconscious level. But for now, you don't need to know that. I encourage you, though, to experiment with it because it will literally transform how you do stuff. Now, the reason I stopped with the language stuff there is because I really want to get to some of this other stuff as well. So I promised you that I would share with you 3 preferences that would help you better understand how you and other people think, right? So I want to make sure I do this because this again will transform how you communicate with other people. And I'm going to ask for a bit of participation here, right? You don't have to unmute yourself, but I'd like you to put your answer in the chat, okay? I've got 3 questions to ask you in a minute, and then I'm going to ask you to put the answer in the chat, right? Does anybody know who any of these people are? Anybody recognise any of them? This man on the right is Carl Jung. If you've ever come across Myers-Briggs, Insights, Discoveries, or any other psychometric test along those lines, that's the guy whose work that sits behind it, wrote a book in 1921 called Psychological Types. And these two ladies on the left are Myers and Briggs. So again, if you've ever come across the Myers-Briggs type indicator in your work life, quite a famous, well-known profiling tool, this is mother and daughter. The ladies that took Carl Jung's work, updated it, and then we use it. Now, if you've never heard of any of them, it doesn't matter. Okay, so let's not lose any sleep over it. But some of you might have heard of these people before, so you might be quite interested to know. Now, what I'm going to talk about very briefly here is something called meta programs. Now, meta programs essentially is built on the work of Carl Jung. And whereas Carl Jung had 3 preferences and said he could reliably predict behaviour, Myers and Briggs then came along and went, if we have 4 dimensions, we can reliably predict behaviour. And then from there on, it's evolved into different things. Now in NLP, it's been evolved into something called meta programs. Okay. I absolutely love meta programs. I think they are a phenomenal set of questions that really help us to understand ourselves and other people better. Okay. So I've picked 3 of the 23 to ask you this evening. Okay, I'm going to drop this in the chat because if I show the slide, you're gonna guess. So I'm going to put it in here. So here is a bit of audience participation then. So let me ask you the question. If someone you knew quite well, like this is a best friend, a partner, if someone you know really quite well, said to you, I'm thirsty, would you A, find the comment interesting but probably do nothing about it? Or B, would you feel really compelled to do something about it? So just drop an A or a B in the comments. No other explanation required. Okay, cool. So we got a little bit of a mix going on. Amazing. B, 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 A, B, B, B. Amazing. A, yeah, perfect. So here's the thing. Right, now this is a finger in the air, right? So let's just be clear about this, right? This is not hugely going to be, you know, validated and all of that stuff. However, if you said A, that you would find the comment interesting but probably do nothing about it, a literal listener. Okay, so if you would find it interesting but probably do nothing about it, then you are a literal listener. If you would feel compelled to do something about it, you are what we call an inferential listener. So, to put it in quite straightforward terms, the person said, I'm thirsty. They didn't say, can you get me a drink? They didn't say, where's the glasses? They didn't say, they just made a comment, I'm thirsty. I am a literal listener. Right? So if you said to me, I'm thirsty, in my head, I probably wouldn't say this out loud, but in my head, I'd be going, well, you know where the water is, you know where the taps are, so go help yourself, right? Because if you wanted me to get you a drink, you just needed to ask. Laura, could I have a glass of squash? Absolutely, no problem, I'll go make you one. And you'll often hear literal listeners have a go at other people. They will go, stop hinting. If you want me to do something, just tell me and I will do it, right? So that's literal. Okay. Now, inferential listeners are people that hear things and often will surmise or will infer what they think the other person wants them to do. So someone says, I'm thirsty. The inferential listener goes, oh, maybe they want me to get them a drink. Maybe they don't. But you infer from what someone has said. You add information to it, and then obviously you would move forward from there. Now, we'll just pause there for a second because I also want to look at the speaking preference, and then I'm going to put these two together, right? So here is the speaker style question. If you felt that someone around you was not performing as well as they should. So if you're a manager, take your hat off for a manager, just be you, right? So if someone around you was not performing as well as they should, would you A, come to the point and tell them directly, Or B, would you hint, imply and give clues? So be honest. If you're sat on the fence and you're not sure, I'm going to say to you, what comes to you more naturally, or what is it that you do more of? Because you probably will do both. So we've got, again, a mixture of A's and B's. So if you would come to the point and tell me directly, you are what we would call a literal speaker. And if you would hint, imply, give them clues, then you're probably more an inferential speaker. Okay. Now, there isn't any right or wrong with this. And Myers-Briggs and NLP were all very clear. It's not about right or wrong. It's about understanding your preference, your preferred way of doing things, and someone else's preferred method of processing and preferences for doing things, and understanding if they're the same or different. So, can I get you to sit there and just fold your arms? So just put your pen down just for a second and fold your arms. Right, now fold them the wrong way. So look at which hand is on top and which hand is underneath, and change it so it's the other way. Wowzers, that feels really weird. I mean, I've been doing this for years and even now it still feels really weird. Right, so you have, that's it, you can relax. So you have a preferred way of folding your arms and a non-preferred way of folding your arms. And neither is right nor wrong. What there is just how you prefer to do it. But I want you just to pause for a minute. Now you know these two filters. If you had someone that was an inferential speaker who hinted, implied, and left clues, hoping the other person would work it out for themselves, and you had an inferential listener who read into things, you can start to understand how miscommunication might happen. But the key is knowing what you are and what the other person is that you're communicating with, so you can work that out. Now, that's not to say, to be very clear, that literal is the better option. Absolutely not. As a literal speaker, there are many a time people have said to me, you could have at least sugar-coated that just a little bit. You know, put the iron fist inside a velvet glove, at least try and make it a little bit softer. And so it's not, none of it is perfect. None of it is fail-safe. But what there is knowing what you are and knowing what other people are and how to get the best out of them. It's fascinating stuff when you start to think about it. And then the third one, because I promised you 3 preferences. So this one is known as the information processing style. So the question I'm going to ask you is, when you need to work through a problem or a challenge in your life, is it absolutely necessary for you to A, talk about it with someone, or B, think about it by yourself only? So which are you? Do you want to talk to someone else about it, or do you want to think about it by yourself? Now, yes, I know some of you are going to say, yes, but I want to do both. Where do you go first? Do you go because you want to talk it through, or do you go, I want to think it through? So yeah, got a bit of a mix again. Love it, A's and B's. So with this one, you are likely to have a preference to either what we call external processing or internal processing. Okay, so external processors think out here. Internal processors think in here. So I'm an external processor, think out loud all the time. Lynn will tell you that. The number of times we have a conversation and I'm like, Lynn, should we do this or should we do this? I'm thinking maybe do this. Oh no, maybe we won't do this. And I think out loud a lot. That's my style. And it used to wind my ex-husband up a treat, because I'd come home from work and go, what shall we have for dinner tonight? Because, you know, we could go to the chippy and have fish and chips. We could have the leftovers from yesterday, or I could get stuff out the freezer. I think we'll have a takeaway. Is that right? And that's how external processors are. External processors will ask you a question, but they're not really asking you a question. They just want you to stand there and nod in the right places while they think out loud and get to the answer themselves. I'm not saying they don't want to hear what you've got to say, but their preference is to think out loud. That's what they do. Whereas internal processors go, yeah, just leave that with me. I want to mull that over. I'll come back to you. And they'll go away and they'll think about it and they'll come back. I used to have an internal processor that used to work for me when I was in HR. And oh my God, he was amazing. But we'd have a meeting about something for half an hour. We'd wrap up the meeting. We'd think like we'd made a decision. And then he'd catch me in the corridor the next day and go, Laura, I've been thinking about that decision we've made. I think we've missed something. And I'd stand there and go, oh my God, you're so right, we have. But he just needed time to think. So again, in a work context, you're going to find these people. It could be in sales, it could be in coaching, it could be in terms of leadership, it could be in terms of life at home. Pay attention. What are your preferences and what are the preferences of the other person, and how do you support them with that for better communication? Anyway, that's 3. And finally, I promised you a little experience of a technique called NLP Anchoring, if you're up for it. Now, we're not going to do NLP Anchoring properly like we would obviously on a course, because I can't do that in 5 minutes. But what I want to do is help you to understand that it is absolutely possible to change how you feel in an instant. Now, NLP Anchoring essentially enables us to set up what we call a resource anchor that we can use in the future. So there are many, many, many different ways of doing NLP anchoring, and we teach a bunch of them on our course. But all I want to do tonight is help you have a go at anchoring a positive feeling. So what we're going to do is we're going to use what we call the finger and thumb exercise, okay? And if you're up for taking part in this, then that's what we're going to do. There are loads. We could do the circle of excellence. There's so many to do. But this little one is just designed to help you. Now, we use the thumb and the little finger for this because you connect your index finger and your thumb an awful lot. And I don't want to accidentally, if you do a great job of this, which is possible, then I don't want you to be holding a pen at work tomorrow and then suddenly burst out laughing. That might not be appropriate. So we're going to use the thumb and the little finger. Okay. Now, this is your little 101 in anchoring, just so we can have this little exercise together. Okay.
Just need to interrupt the recording of this training to give a health and safety warning. If you are driving a car, operating machinery, then please refrain from doing the anchoring exercise which is about to come up, and come back and listen to this episode when it's safe for you to do so. So assuming that it is safe for you to continue listening, let's get back to the training.
In a moment, what I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you to close your eyes. Okay, if you're happy to do that, just let me explain first and then we'll do it together, right? So I'm going to get you in a minute to close your eyes, and I'm going to get you to go back to a time when you were feeling loads of joy. Okay, now this can be in any area of your life. It could be when you were a child, it could be today, it could be yesterday, but a time that you remember being full of lots of joy, okay? And there's all sorts of different scenarios you could do. You know, for me, it's just clapping eyes on the sea. I love it. Like the feeling inside when I just see it, I'm at the sea or I see the sea. I just absolutely love it. For you, it might be the first time you saw your child, or it might be, a day when you got married. It might be when someone did something lovely for you and you were like, oh, yeah, I can just feel it. And what I'm going to do is to get you to go back to that specific moment. So we're not doing joy in general. We're going to do a specific moment in time. Now this, if you've never done anything like this before, this is going to feel a little bit different, right? But go with it. Because I think you'll find it will work. But you need a specific memory that you can go back to a specific time. So for example, one of the memories that I use is for my 40th birthday, I went to the Maldives. And I remember being sat on the sunbed looking out at that turquoise water feeling the gentle breeze on my face and the warmth on my skin, and I can really associate into that feeling. And I literally go back in my memory bank to that moment and imagine being sat back on that sunbed, seeing what I saw, hearing what I heard, and feeling those feelings, right? And the better that you can do that, the better the memory you pick, the more successful this is going to be. Okay, what we'll do is, there's a little bit of script. You don't need to understand the scripts that we use. I'll just say them to you, right? And the script is just designed to help you to go back and recall that memory. Now, as soon as you feel that feeling of joy, when you're back in that moment, I want you to connect this thumb and this little finger together and keep them pressed while you feel the feeling. And then as soon as the feeling subsides, disconnect them. Okay? So your job is to close your eyes, to go back to that memory, and as soon as you feel it, connect these together and hold them, and then disconnect them as soon as the feeling subsides. Because emotional states, like a bell curve, it will start to build, and then you'll feel it, and then it will start just to disappear again. And when it does, you just disconnect them, right? So for this to work the best, I suggest you kind of sit somewhere relaxed, sit back in your chair with your feet on your floor or whatever. Just get yourself a little bit comfy, okay? And get your hands rested. So I'm going to rest my hands on my desk in front of me, but you do it however you want. Put it on your lap, whatever. And just, like I say, just a centimetre apart just before we start. So you know, without having to open your eyes, you know you can just connect them and then disconnect them, right? And that's what we're going to do. So has everybody got a specific memory from the past that we can use for this exercise? Have you got a good one? Yeah? Okay. Right then. So let's have a go at doing this then. So everybody close your eyes. And I'd like you to think of that time now, that specific time when you were feeling loads of joy. And as you go back to that time now, float down inside your body and see what you saw, hear what you heard, and really feel those feelings of all of that joy. Make sure you connect the fingers as soon as you feel it, and then disconnect them as soon as that feeling subsides. And then when you've disconnected them, just open your eyes so I know that you're done. Now, we can sit here and do this over and over again. And the great thing about anchoring is the more times you do something, the stronger it will be. Now, joy might not have been the right emotion for you this evening. We can anchor any feeling. We could have anchored confidence or calm or curiosity or whatever. But when you're doing in a group, we've all got to do the same one. So that's a little bit about how we can use memories from the past in order to anchor them so that we can use them in the future. So if I'm doing coaching with, for example, people in interviews or sales coaching or public speaking or anything like that, what we'll do is we'll connect somebody with an emotion from the past that's helpful, confidence, calmness, whatever. And then we'll create a nice strong anchor which you can use in the future. Now, if that didn't work for you, that is absolutely fine, because remember, I've just done that in 5 minutes. It normally takes me at least half an hour to fully explain this properly and make sure that you fully understand exactly how to do it. But the point is just to start to understand, an insight, just a little insight into one of the techniques that we might use. So yeah. Cool. So that's all the things I promised you in this little live taster session. So what questions do any of you have? You can feel free to unmute yourself or use the chat feature. Does anybody have any questions which I can help answer? No, everybody's like, no. Was that useful? Have you got something out of tonight? Have you got some language stuff to take away and some hacks that you can use? Because that's ultimately what it is all about, is giving you some stuff that you can use. Yeah, Lisa, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, all good stuff. Amazing. So useful, really interesting. Fab, 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 fab. Yay. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more, there's loads of free stuff that we've got which you can go and access if you want to learn a bit more. So if you were interested in what we've done this evening, the first thing to point you to is my podcast. So if you like podcasts, then go and look for the NLP Talks with Laura Evans podcast. There's nearly 80 odd episodes there now. If you just go to nlptalks.com, then you will find all the episodes all on the front page. Take an episode that floats your boat, and go and have a look. They're all completely free. Series 2, if you're interested in considering doing the practitioner course, Series 2 is an insight into all the main techniques. So if you're interested in learning more about the techniques that we do at the prac level, then definitely go check out Series 2 and you'll hear more about them. And there's stuff about me, there's an episode about me, there's an episode about using NLP in a bunch of different contexts. So if you like a podcast, you can put that on while you're working or driving tomorrow or at the gym or whatever you're going to be doing. We got a blog, there's loads of stuff on the blog, we're always putting blogs out. And there's also some free training that you can go to. unleashyourpotential.org.uk is our website, /free. Yeah, there's loads of free stuff. There's another 6 pre-recorded webinars. So they're webinars that I've done over the last couple of years. So if you want to learn NLP a little bit more, then by all means go and access the free stuff. And then you can watch one of the webinars. There's one on goal setting. There's one on using it in leadership. There's one on stress. There's loads of them. One on sales as well. So yeah, go and have a little look at all of that. And so there's loads and loads of free stuff. We can point you in that direction if you want to. You can message Lynn now, or you can call us tomorrow, email us tomorrow, so that you can have a look at that. If you're curious about our courses, then I promised you today would not be a massive sales pitch. So I hope you've enjoyed your hour of content. But if some of you are here, I know, because we've been talking to you and you're considering the courses and you're considering what to do. If it's of help to you, we have a course brochure. You're very welcome to screenshot this or scan the QR code that's currently on screen. That will take you through to our brochure, or email Lynn. Lynn will send you the brochure. It's got all the 2026 course dates in it. We run courses online like this on Zoom. So I know a lot of you are not local to Cornwall, so that might be an option. Although if you are in Cornwall or you fancy coming to Cornwall, then this is the hotel that we use. It's called the Falmouth Hotel, right on the seafront, which is just phenomenal. I absolutely love where we do our training now down here. So you can just see me in the pink dress right on the very front of the beach huts. So there's a couple of options, and there are 3 levels. So level 1 is the practitioner course. That would be where you would all start if you did want to join us. So that would give you your certification to be able to practice NLP with other people if you wanted to. It's also the course you would do if you're looking for personal development. And then level 2 would be where you would become a certified coach in NLP. And you would also become a timeline therapy practitioner and a hypnosis practitioner if you're looking to do hypnotherapy. And then level 3 is our master prac program, which makes you a master coach and a master practitioner in all the disciplines that we train. And then we have a second business where we do business support. So if you're interested in setting up a coaching business or therapy business, then Lynn and I can talk to you all about our other company where we do all of that. But I don't want to spend loads of time talking about it tonight. If you're interested in it, Lynn's in the office tomorrow and can talk to you about it. We're one of the only training companies that has a master trainer that's triple accredited. That's obviously me. So master trainer is the highest level that you can get. I'm accredited by the ABNLP, the ANLP and the IFNLP. I am the only one in the UK accredited by all 3. And we have held the award of the UK's leading NLP training provider since 2022, I believe. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. So we know a thing or two about NLP and NLP training. And we've got over 100 5-star reviews, and I could talk all day about our amazing community that we have. But like I say, I don't want to take up hours and hours of your time talking about the courses, because I'm mindful of the time. If you are kind of already like, actually, do you know what? I already know the courses you offer. I've already had the details, and I'm like, I'm all good. I want to crack on and join you. Then the next chance to join me here in Cornwall is May. So the 10th to the 16th of May for prac, and if you wanted to stay for coach as well, that would go straight on the back. And then if you want to do it on the online, it's in the summer. So 2 weekends in June for prac, and a weekend in July for coach. So the summer program would be the next opportunity to do it online. The more courses you book up front, the more discount you get. So if you just do prac, that's cool. Very happy to support you with that. If you wanted to do the prac course and the coach course, then you get a double course discount by booking both in advance. And Lynn is a whiz at helping with all of those types of things. So you're very welcome to call her tomorrow or email tomorrow. And the thing about us, right, is we're not interested in pressurizing you. If it's right for you to join us, we would love to share what we know and to support you on the journey. And if it's not for you, that's equally cool. We're not here to pressurize you into doing something that's not right for you. But we've helped hundreds and hundreds of people. I mean, it's probably even over 1,000 people now. I haven't done a count for a while. So yeah, and we also offer interest-free payment plans for private individuals. So if you're funding this course yourself, then we do monthly installments. We don't charge interest. I'm not a bank. But if it helps you by splitting up the payment into monthly installments to make it more affordable, then fab. Let's have a conversation about that and see what we can do to help you. If you're getting work to pay for it, then they can stump the cash up. But if you're paying for it, then we want to do what we can to help. So yeah, there you go. So that's your little whistle stop tour.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You are most welcome. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome, Mark. You're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Laura. Have a lovely evening.
Oh, you're most welcome. Lovely to see you.